Come to the show. We about to chop it up. Come to the show. We got some things we can talk about. Come to the show. We about to chop it up. Come to the show. We got some things we can talk about. Chop it up. Chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up. Chop it. We got some things we can talk about. Chop it up. Chop it, chop it, chop it up. Chop it up. Chop it. We got some things we can talk about.
You are now tuned in to the Chop Shop with your host, Pastor Marvin McKenstry Jr. Let's chop it up.
It ain't settled in yet. It ain't settled in yet. I'm still in love with the intro. We got the new intro. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Chop Shop. I'm your host, Pastor Marvin McKenstry Jr. Excited as always that God blesses us with the privilege to be able to come and bring you good, solid kingdom content. And I need y'all to start tagging people right now. Put people's names in the comments that you want to join us. We know we got started a little late this evening, but we was working through some stuff. Listen, tonight we have one of the greatest minds, most educated men in the kingdom of God, and the balance that he brings of the spirit, the prophetic, that education, information, and great humility is something to really treasure. But before we get to that, I got to always bring on my right hand and my left hand, my main man, Mr. Shaka Pitts, on the ones and twos, making the magic happen. Techniques 1200s, because anything else is uncivilized. What's going on, Shaq?
How you doing, good brother?
Shaq, I've been praying in deep prayer, man. We hit a milestone that just blew me away to even hear that within 46 days of the year, of a new year, we had 45 murders, man. I'm doing what I do. I'm doing my part. I'm trying to be out and do as much intervention as I can. But brother, this thing is really, really, really reaching new levels.
It's real in the field, Marv, and it's hard to even grapple with. I mean, it's like it's like is it intentional? I know it's not, but it almost feel like is there a race? Are we trying to beat the calendar? It's weird, man, because it's hard to even put a finger on. It's hard, man, because it's a bunch of things going on at once. So it's really hard to put your finger on the one thing or it's this or it's that, or it's just so much going on right now that people need and they're not getting, and we're seeing the signs and symptoms of it, brother.
And it's important. It's important that you understand it on our platform. We don't elevate this to glorify, to call out a politician or to do anything like that. The truth is, we here because this is God's platform. This is where the people of God gather. We need everybody in prayer. We need everybody in prayer and in action. Faith without works is dead. James said it, right? Faith without work is dead. We got to put our feet to the pavement, go do something aside from talk about these situations. While we're talking about it, it's a great segue to get to our church announcements. And the first church announcement always here is the Stop the Beef Hotline. The Men of the We Are Us movement for the past 2 to 3 years have been doing boots on the ground intervention, making sure that anybody that's in that space that gives us the opportunity, we make ourselves available to come and to prevent another murder from happening. It takes our own money out of our own pockets sometimes. It takes intervention at many levels, but we here to do the work. Y'all see the number 443-431-3705. Stop the Beef Hotline. You call that number, a man is always going to answer, and we ready to intervene. Right on the heels of that, we got the Baltimore peace agreement that's still making its rounds in and through the city of Baltimore. People of God, this peace agreement has made a difference in some places, in some areas where the murder rate might even be more than what it's been, right? But the young men that have made this agreement with us have literally been keeping their word and keeping their lives. So I need you, again, this ain't about bigging up nobody, but the We Are Us men's movement, again, is at the forefront of this. I need y'all, if we have not come to your community with the peace agreement, reach out to us and we'll gladly bring it and get those brothers to understand, even if they got to eat in the streets, they ain't got to die or kill in the streets. All right, all right, all right. If you're looking for a job, we're looking for you, and we're in the middle of rebranding. We got a brand new program manager at the Westside Youth Opportunity Center. Shout out to my bro, Mr. Tavon Thomas, another Kingdom brother in place to make a difference in the community. But we rebranding that Yo logo you see is going away. The MOED logo is shifting, but the one thing that won't change is the great opportunities that we're bringing to the people. I want you to understand that if you have somebody that's looking for employment, we are able to assist them. Literally, we walk around with more jobs than we have people. So make sure that you get connected to us so that we can connect the people to the jobs. With a focus on economic justice, we are building a workforce system that works. Two of my favorite people in the world, that is Pastor Andre Nance and co-pastor Nakia Nance, are celebrating their eighth pastoral anniversary and the eighth church anniversary. And on Sunday at 1:30 p.m., I will be in the building to support and to celebrate my brother and sister in Christ. They are doing a great work over there. Their work exceeds the walls of the church. And even as young leaders, they're bringing that nurturing that helps so many of us get over as they work through, as God works through them to bring together and to edify and lift up the body of Christ. So please, if you're not doing anything on Sunday, meet us out at 2624 Lord Baltimore Drive. We are going to be in the building. CDC guidelines followed. Ain't nobody getting sick, but we sure going to celebrate this eighth church anniversary. And my other brother, my homie, my guy, he's going to be our special guest next week. He is celebrating Founders Month. 22 years ago, it was about that much time when I walked out of prison and walked into a church and saw this short brother, dark skinned guy who just had a different kind of swag. I knew that he was God's man, but he didn't carry it like other people. For many people to tag the old school to the brother, he had a fresh wind to him. And I looked at that guy and was like, man, I can see me in a godly perspective looking at men like him. It was Bishop Brian Martin. He was leading worship out at the Joy Night. And 22 years later, this man of God is still on the wall. It ain't been easy. He going to be here to talk to us next week. But I want everybody to support him in one way, shape, or form or another. The ministry of your presence is great. And I wish he had his Cash App on there so you could sow a seed into me. Good ground. He's doing a great work over there on Harford Road. I'll be over there for service, worshiping with the brother. And the dope fiend come right in off the street. That's right. I said dope fiend. We see and believe him healed. But when they come in that door and fall on that altar, and he'll embrace them, pray with them, prophesy to them, and then you'll see him again. And what the man of God has spoken has come to fruition. So please help us celebrate this great man of God. All right, boy, we got through it and we got some time to spare. I wasn't rushing, but I'm excited to get to this tonight. We sitting down one-on-one with this man of God who has been a blessing to this platform since its inception. He's been here in a variety of different capacities, but tonight he's putting that hat on that he wears at the great Morgan State University, y'all, and I don't know how it's going to go. I might forget that I'm interviewing him. I got my pencil and my piece of paper beside me because he is a man of God, an educated man, a Rhodes Scholar, all of the theologian, everything that you can attach to it, and not with a bunch of honorary degrees. He has 2 doctorate degrees. Both of them are earned. He had to do the work, then stand and defend it. I'm talking about the one and only, one of my big brothers and mentors, Dr. Kevin Daniels. Doc, thank you for being with us tonight.
I was glad to be on. I'm always excited to be with my brothers. Brother Shaka, it's always good to see you too. Real glad to be here, always.
He is the pastor, and I think I'm so excited about the teaching tonight. I didn't say he's the pastor and the bishop of St. Martin's Church of Christ, but Doc, you this just the title alone got me excited. You talk bandwidth recovery, and when I thought about that, I thought about living through a pandemic. I take care of my 85-year-old grandma. Well, she's 86 now. She had a birthday. My 65-year-old aunt. I got a 2-year-old that I have full custody of. I'm working. I'm pastoring. I got a lot going on. And the bandwidth recovery is coming tonight, y'all. I hope that I can be a good host tonight because I come here to get some information towards my own healing, and I hope you get yours. Put people, listen, in the comments, go and add names of people that should be on here. Share this to your page, y'all. It is important that we get people on here with this good information. Doc, the bandwidth recovery. Give us some background and some of what this is.
Yeah, about you can still see me, right?
Yes, sir. You looking
Yeah,
good.
the bandwidth recovery more so looks at about 3 or 4 years. We took some young people and we became very serious. We became really very concerned about some of their cognitive resources, meaning where they were cognitively with all that's going on in their lives, with all that's going on in our lives, all of that what we call the 12 life zones spiritually, family, financially, physically, career, all of those kind of things. And we just became really concerned that they were cognitively, emotionally, and even spiritually, that they were, in some sense, stretched to their capacity, in the sense of when you look at all that's going on, bandwidth, when you talk about it, bandwidth looks at it, if you look at it from a technical perspective, from our computers, it's how much a system, how much capacity a system can handle or even transmit data, the amount of something, the amount that something can contain, and not only contain but produce. I'll give you an example. From that definition, we start, and you're talking about across the campus. How much capacity do our students have with all that's going on in their lives? I heard you talk about it. I heard Shaka talk about it. How much can we contain? Because if we don't have the capacity, we can't contain our hopes, dreams, our visions, our imagination, all of those kind of things that come to make us better. And if we can't contain that, then we can't produce at the rate that we're supposed to be producing at. But when you look at that in terms of, as an example, during COVID or pre-COVID, I was at 2.4 megabytes in my system here at home, as far as internet capacity, all of those kind of things, equipment. But then when we started to have to go online for everything, do everything virtually, when all of the people started coming on the line, I realized that my system was unable to handle a 2.4 megabyte. And immediately the carrier, which is Comcast, said, "Oh, we know what's wrong. You need to upgrade your bandwidth and your internet speed to 5.0 in order to be able to handle the kind of data that is coming across your system." Well, I immediately tapped in and and understood, not just from a technical standpoint, but from a mental and emotional standpoint, the level of success that we've been called to and in our environment requires us to change our equipment and upgrade the system in order to handle the level of success, and also the level, even if you look at it on a spiritual level, the level of spiritual data that God is trying to send over your system. Most of us can't handle what we're asking him for because we need an upgrade, and our systems and equipment can't handle the level of data he's trying to transmit. So what I did was I had to shift my system. I had to shift the system, bring in new equipment in order to handle the kind of, and this wasn't negative, even though COVID opened up a whole new world to us, it wasn't negative in the sense what I realized my system was old. And the new challenges that I needed to undertake required a new system, but also me to stretch the bandwidth.
My God. My God, you're live with the Chop Shop. We are talking to Dr. Kevin Daniels. And if you are here reading between these lines and understanding what he's talking about, a very tangible analogy from the need to upgrade our bandwidth in technology to how that relates to our life. Doc, I don't want to do a lot of interrupting tonight. I am taking notes. When we begin to look at the fact that the system, as they use terms like new norms and all of that sort of thing, and we have experienced great change in the world, as we look at our operating systems, our personal operating systems, how we function, what are some of the things that we need to look at as we start to consider a bandwidth expansion, recovery, or upgrading our system or our bandwidth, our system or our equipment?
And that's what we needed to, and that translates when we start talking about bandwidth recovery, it starts translating to our own mental and emotional capacity. I heard, and I'm gonna keep referring back to this because I heard Shaka say it. There's a lot happening all at one time as a result of COVID, not just COVID, but other historical pieces. And one of the things that we had to look at with our young people, not young people as well on the campus, but also some of the intergenerations, we had to start looking at, do you have capacity, mental capacity? Do you have emotional capacity? Because mental and emotional capacity also deals with will capacity. To be able to make those necessary decisions that need to be made. You're talking about emotional resources, need to make good decisions, learning, caring for family, the health, relationships. Again, my own bandwidth. I'm taking care of my mom. I'm pastoring, but also I'm a full-time professor. But then also the president of the Ministers Conference, CDC, and on several boards. Also, one of my glad areas of operation is, of course, we, our, us. What kind of mental capacity? Because please remember, let me get very technical for a minute. You and I live in 4 spatial time dimensions, a vertical level, horizontal, but depth. But then we live in time, which is linear, and it goes forward. Here's our issue. Most of the things, what we know is that God has the capacity to operate in 10 dimensions, right? That's what we know based upon the 4 forces that controls the earth and the universe, which is electromagnetism, gravity, but then also the weak and nuclear forces. If I could break those down, again, only if you ask me. But again, those forces that keep us here, that keep us locked into the earth, that keep us glued into the earth, all of those elements, what we learned was they are invisible to us. But what we learned was whoever created them is not in 4 dimensions, have to be in at least 10 dimensions. So what we now know is that we serve a God that has dimensional capacity for 10 or 11 dimensions, and you and I we won't be able to handle what he's transmitting if we just function in 4. Meaning,
my God.
So again, what we're trying to do is whenever you see, even scripturally, if any man be in Christ, you are new. The quality of your life changes.
My God.
Versus the quantity can change, but it doesn't change if the quality doesn't. So what does mental quality newness look like? What does emotional? Maybe the issue that we're having, and I keep referring back to Shaka because he gave me my opening. Because again, maybe we're stressed out because we're continuing to try to understand 4 dimensions and not 10.
My
maybe
God.
We and for us, scriptures bring it very closely. He's caused us to sit with him, not stand, sit with him in heavenly places. Maybe mentally and emotionally, you're trying to understand something at a level that is just 4-dimensional, and you need to go up a little bit higher.
Bishop, in our Bible study, which we call Table Talk, we do that every Wednesday, and I switched the concept because it's a sit-down, casual, like sitting at the dinner table conversation. The last 2 weeks, and I don't rush when we pick something that we're working on. we stay right there. We've been dealing with emotional health. We've
Yeah.
been dealing with that in the scriptures because the scriptures speak very boldly about the need for us to be angry, right? That's a part of being a person of flesh, but sin not. We still have responsibilities. And I'm just excited about this teaching tonight because it coincides greatly with the things that we've been talking about in Bible study. When we talk about this term, excuse me, emotional intelligence, how does that tie in to the lack of capacity? I've talked publicly about it. I had a breakdown. Me and the cop went at it. It got recorded. It went viral, made national news, and all that sort of thing. My self management, right, allowed me to put myself in that situation or the lack thereof. Talk to us about that need for increase as it pertains to how we deal with situations that we encounter in life.
Again, I would argue because one of the key figures that is consistent even with where we are in time is the book of Daniel, where he is emasculated in this particular country. Not only is he emasculated, he is traumatized. Not only is he traumatized, but he is being drafted and taken out of his natural indigenous environment to cohabitate in an environment of Babylon that is inconsistent with who and what his homeland. So again, but he comes in. Watch what I'm getting ready to say, and this is what I mean by bandwidth development. He comes into Babylon. With what the system called. Even the system acknowledged him and said he has an excellent spirit. That word excellent literally means yatir, Y-A-T-E-E-R. What that literally means, he has the ability to jump 10 times further, mentally, emotionally, 10 times spiritually, with his intelligence. He has the ability he's operating 10 times better than everybody else. He's not getting an evaluation that's poor. He's not getting an evaluation that's fair, no good. It is excellent. How does he do that in an environment that is inconsistent sometimes with his spiritual beliefs? He has to be yatir. He's got to function and think out of a different capacity. He did that physically. He was able to eat that which was consistent with his spiritual and emotional and mental development. It was consistent with his blood type. You and I understand blood types A, B, O, and RH. Somehow or another, he lived within the means of his very blood type, so that he could still be able to, when your physical life is in up to par and where it needs to be, your spirit can be where it needs to be mentally and emotionally. The scriptures, our holy scriptures, said that Daniel understood what to eat, when to sleep, all of those kind of things, and it made him excel. But then just not physically, he also excelled emotionally. The Bible talks about emotions. It talks about the fact that what we're going to feel. But what he did was that which was so excellent, and which we are called upon, because Babylon is, of course, the prototype and symbol of the end times. It says that this is what, in the book of Revelation, this is what our culture will look like. So if we already know what the culture will look like, then what is the next example that we could use to live better? And that is in the book of Daniel. He had an excellent spirit. He was able to jot out. He was able to exceed all of the pressure, the stress, the kind of operation that was taking place in Babylon, and to the point where they elevated this man to the highest office in the land in captivity. What I'm arguing is our captivity may not ever end. But what I am suggesting to you is that your excellence has to rise above that dimensionally. We still together? We still out there?
Yes, sir. It looks like Marvin had a technical issue. He jumped off, but you are still live and going, sir.
Oh, I can run?
Yes, sir.
So again, I think we need to look at Shaka. We need to look at that model, that Daniel type model. It ain't the way. It is what it is. It is the person, your own identity. Not just your own identity, but also your purpose and also your destiny that needs to guide.
But can I go back real quick, because you said one of the core elements at the beginning of this was just something as simple as healthy eating.
Yep.
Because I think that we hear some of the stuff that you're talking about, and it takes us into a place that becomes so deep. And even, I'm not even talking church spiritual deep, but when you start talking about mental and emotional health, we think so far ahead of the simple everyday elements of eating right, exercising, self-care.
You still with me?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just kind of,
and that's what we use in school. We use the quality of life metrics. And what we've learned is that just basic. One of the things that I had to learn, number one, was my blood type. I had to, and some people believe in it and some people don't. I happen to. I realized that I'm a B positive blood type, and then I started eating consistent with my own DNA. Consistent with that. And again, I'm not asking everybody. Your doctor will tell you when you go get your health screening, the doctor will tell you once a year for men, for women. Once you get it, literally on that your physical exam, it tells you what blood type you are. And knowing what blood type you are, you start eating consistent. You start. Mine happens to be, certain foods I can't have. I can have fish. A certain food doesn't work with my constitution, my physical constitution. I don't need to be exercising 7 days a week because I'm not going to lose any weight 7 days a week. I can do 2 to 3. That should be my max. Anything else exhausts my adrenal system and it throws off my allostatic load, the system in my body that keeps balance. Because I'm overdoing what I don't really have to do. I am totally stressed out. Stress impacts your hypothalamus, your amygdala. Stress impacts your pituitary. And when stress hits your pituitary, what happens is it releases all of those fluids into your endocrine system to the extent where it overloads them and stresses the organs out if you're not careful. All because I overdid something that is inconsistent with my blood type.
My God, you on live with the Chop Shop. We're here.
I hope I didn't go too deep with that.
No, listen, because my next question was going to be for the lay person, right? You gave us some things. If you haven't already, find out your blood type. Is finding out what eating with your blood type looks like something as simple as Googling, or like where does the lay person get connected to the information that we need? Because I mean, we living in a time, y'all listening to him. The truth is, everybody coming along to you telling you that they need you to pay them to be your life coach and pay them to help you with self-care. Want you to pay them to help you with self-care. You getting it free tonight. That's all this is. Don't let the language move you. This is about self-care.
That's what it's about.
This is about self-care.
You owe it to yourself.
Doc.
No, you owe it to yourself. When I say bandwidth, you owe it to yourself to get new equipment. You owe it to yourself to upgrade. And that's what we're waiting for: systems, institutions, and structures to give it to us. And most of us know, as African indigenous people here on Black History Month, most of us know it was built into our capacity since our indigenous start. And it when you talk about the melanin, all of that, I studied it. It is absolutely true and blue. When you understand who we are, D3 vitamins, the reason that we're experiencing prostate cancer at a large rate, the reason that we are experiencing breast cancer at an alarming rate is ultimately because we are sunburnt people, meaning we are supposed to be, what is consistent with our development is sunlight and light. You and I can't afford to darken our spirit. We can't afford to darken our mind. We can't afford to darken our emotion, nor can we afford to darken our physical life, because D3 vitamin is a sun vitamin. And it is, most of the time, cancer can come in those areas because of D3. Just a vitamin intake can go in, and D3 represents sunlight. I tell people all the time in doing counseling, you're going to have to think a little bit more, bring a little bit more light in this conversation, because you are inconsistent with your DNA. You weren't even born to be negative. We couldn't have built the Nile civilization had we not had full capacity of our, not just four, but fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is the subatomic dimension. That's where we get the word physics and quantum from. All of these kind of technologies that are happening because people from a fifth dimensional aspect of their brain are being able to bring technology to the forefront. I am arguing that it is natural for you and I. That's why I am challenging people that look like you and me, people of color, even my white brothers and sisters, that we have to live at a higher rate of light because it is consistent with our DNA. And I hope I didn't get too deep.
No, you good. My younger brother Marvin, he's actually my brother. We got the same name. Just said that D3 ain't gonna give you cancer. I think you misunderstood what Dr. Daniel said. He's saying that we need that, and the lack of it will put us in that place where we can get cancer. Shaka, who's a cancer survivor, said I'm vitamin D deficient and caught prostate cancer. So you right in the ballpark, Doc. You right in the ballpark, y'all. This is the Chop Shop. We coming to you live every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube at 6 p.m. tonight. We with Dr. Kevin Daniels, who is talking about bandwidth recovery. Don't let the title or the smooth taste fool you. We are talking about self-care, y'all, and talking about what we need to do to operate at the optimal level. Doc, you talked about the 4 dimensions that we're accustomed to operating at, and yet we need to expand and get to that next level. For the layperson, what is some of the things that a person can do in their day-to-day to push themselves beyond just that 4th dimension or those 4 dimensions that we normally operate at?
Yeah, it definitely, when you start to look at the 5th dimension, and again, and because I navigate all kinds of students across the campus, they come to me, biology, chemistry. So when you hear me talk heavy science and all of that, I start there with them, but then I simplify and bring them to the point. It's a spirituality class. And some of them, I bring them like the atheists I talked about with We Our Us on Monday night. The atheist said, listen, sir, again, I'm an atheist. We in a class full of 40, 50 people. He says, let me tell you something, Dr. Daniels, and all y'all talking about God that's living inside of you. Let me ask y'all the question. And he's a scientist. And the first thing he said was, there are 100 billion planets in the Milky Way. Then there are another 100 billion planets in the Andromeda galaxy that is next to our galaxy. He asked them the question, you mean to tell me, Dr. Daniels, that your God that created all of that, the subatomic particles, all of that, cellular, molecular, atomic things, you mean to tell me that God lives down on the inside of you, here's what he asks. Then why can't you heal people? Then why can't miracles come from you if you're telling me you are the embryo, you are in the embodiment of God himself? What he was saying was, I don't even believe in God, but if you have God, your standard should be higher.
My God.
And what I argued with the brothers was, we need to go home and reflect about who are we at that level of capacity. Have we maximized our spirituality and our God to the extent that he could be in our lives? And have we stretched the bandwidth far enough, or are we comfortable when you walk into a situation? Is it a deficit or is it a strength? You decide what that is. It might be a negative situation, but you can transform that into something very much so very powerful. So to get there, it's going to be the internal work that it takes. And while I like talking about trauma, I'm more so concerned with how you reverse the trend. I am always careful when people continue to talk about the trauma without putting a plan together to reverse it.
What triggers in my mind when I hear you talk about that, Doc, is in the Word of God, it says, and my now unto him who is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we could ask or think. But that part that we normally leave off, according to the power that works in us. And you talked about capacity in the beginning. What are some of the things that are in our space, right, that's limiting the capacity or limiting the power of God to be able to operate at that? I can't even say the optimal level, because we're talking about something that exceeds what our thought process or our ideas of optimal is, right? And he said it. He said, exceeding abundantly above all which you know how to ask and what your mind can even fathom. But it's according to the power, the amount of power, the space that God has allowed to operate. What are some of the things that hinders that capacity we need for what we know God is inside of us to operate?
And I talked about one of them with the physical body, how much stress we interpret, how much stress, again, the hypothalamus, the moment stress comes up, that hypothalamus, and this is all in your brain, the first thing that it's going to do, it's going to respond to that. If it detects stress, it's going to send it to, again, people call it, where people get their hands laid on them in the forehead. Now I understand why the forehead is used physically, because that's where the pituitary gland is. And when they lay hands on you, it's the message center that tells the rest of the body that this person, that God is present. But again, and that's what happens even in praise and worship. When people tell us to worship and praise, we think that it's just emotional, but honestly, I'm talking the physical. Number one, it is not. Even God knew when you put your hand on somebody's forehead that it would convert and secrete fluids into your blood system that would bring some level of balance to your life. So when they are laying hands on me, it brings, even the body knows that it brings balance.
This is one of the things that I think is lacking. I think we come into the church and folks that are there do what they do. We pick up and mimic the behaviors, but we don't get the result because nobody brings it home like this. Nobody brings it home. We just putting our hand on people, drenching them in oil, and might even get some sort of result. The problem I have with it is it's not sustainable if you don't have the information of what took place when I did that to you.
Yeah, no, that is, some people in Eastern cultures call it the third eye, because it looks like an eye. The pituitary looks like an eye, but it knows how to put you to sleep. A little teeny, but it knows how to put you to sleep, and it knows how to wake you up. But it also secretes all the necessary fluids to keep all of your body organs functioning at optimal level. So when the old folk laid hands on us, they may not have had the education about why they were necessarily doing it from a physical standpoint. They knew that it would release the anointing in the lives of people, but now we now have the science to support, or the research to support, that when they laid their hands on me, and they rebalanced my allostatic load.
My God.
You know, I do simplify this for students because they'll say, give me some more examples. Again, when you talk about refueling, recharging, when my hands are laid on me, it reverses the elevated stress in my body to the point where it recharges, refuels me, and it creates a situation in my body that can handle, watch this, can handle my spiritual self. Because if the body, the machine that you and I live in, if that's not together, it can interrupt and disrupt also the spirit and the mind.
You talked about eating and exercising consistent with what is going to work according to your blood type. My question is, if I wanted to bring this home on a day to day, right? I wanted to bring it home on a day to day. I'm trying to live. What things do I deploy in my daily living? Because we know that we got, yes, sir. We know that we got people who lay hands on us on Sunday. If I get lay hands laid on me on Sunday, what is the sustainable mechanisms of it? Because we also know that we have folks in that come to the church and return to the most toxic environments when they come back home. My producer is letting me know it's time for me to send a shout out. We over the Chop Shop, y'all. We got the great DrKevin Daniels here with us, and he is giving out all of this great information about our self care. You know, we got bandwidth recovery, and he going a little deeper in deeper depths with it, high heights. But we want y'all to know that all those people that are talking about self care, if you like the content that comes across our channel, please make a donation. None's too big, none's too small, and we're gonna let that run across the bottom for a while. The Chop Shop Be More, dollar sign the Chop Shop Be More is the Cash App. All of the money goes back into the channel to support this great content. But Doc, I got hands laid on me on Sunday, right? Like I got laid out, stretched out in the spirit. I was slain.
This week?
No, I'm just saying. I'm setting the scene for you. I was slain in the spirit. I get up, I go home. What are the things that I can do aside from the eating and the exercising? Some things maybe more on the stress release, spiritual side, wherever you feel like we need to take it to make that more sustainable.
Yeah, I would like to, again, I know, you go off at about 7, but there are about 4 elements that really, that Daniel did that is comparable to what we can do as well. Not only did he excel in physicality, again, that's why he was more healthier. But then number 2, the whole ability to have mental intelligence or mental intuition, all of that. God was strong upon him to the point where he could interpret dreams. He had again 3 things: identity, purpose, and also destiny. In other words, identity deals with, and I say it all the time, identity deals with who you are. None of this, when it comes to self-care, the first thing that I work with people is their identity. Who are you? Again, and what I find is that the further away that you know yourself, the further away that you know yourself, the most of the time it is more difficult. It is more difficult to excel at the level that Daniel did. Daniel knew who he was. He was very clear. Even while in Babylon, he knew where he was from. There's where the historical significance come in about people of African descent. We didn't start here in Western world. We started in the Eastern context. Without a whole lot of books early on indigenously, we worked intuitively. We were able to tap into the highest levels of thought, the dimensional capacities. When we do quantum physics, when we do subatomic and all of those kind of things, what they're doing with nanotechnology, robotics, transhumanism, what they're really doing is tapping into, because all of that stuff is invisible. And what they're doing is tapping into that stuff mentally. They are tapping into that fifth dimensional aspect, and they're able to unlock those codes and be able to do the kind of things that they're doing with some of this technology right now. And all I'm arguing is you got to have a strong mental self. You got to have a strong who I am. And what I find when my students even come to school is that I'm working on helping them strengthen their identity. That is who I am, plus what I'm supposed to do. Because once you know who you are, then you hurry up and go to what you're supposed to do. Because when you have those two together, then you know what your destiny is. You can anticipate that things are going to work out for you because of what you're supposed to have.
So, Doc, you mean I can't put a title on, robe on, collar around my neck and all? I got to really deal with me.
Yeah, and here's the challenge with coming into ministry. Most people don't. We are dressing them up physically, but mentally they're not clear. Who are you? When I ask people, tell me a little bit about yourself. They wrestle with that, but what they start doing is telling me things about what other people think about them.
Mm.
But because they're not clear, it hinders what they're supposed to be doing. I had to learn that the hard way. The Bible speaks about, man, know thyself. Then coming into who you are plus what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is your purpose. Most people don't always know that, how to stay in your lane. Paul said, I go for the good fight. I've kept the faith. And he talked about he followed his course. That's his purpose. And far too often, Daniel was clear who he was. That's why he didn't bow. He couldn't bow because he was clear. If the lions ate him or if the fire burned him, he knew he couldn't do that.
I want to be honest because I want to be able to be a blessing to somebody. And I can honestly sit here and say, I'm in the third year as a pastoring to be able to finally say I'm comfortable in my own skin. And at a place where I'm really seeking God for how I'm supposed to do it. You know, we borrow from the best, we mimic, we copy, and all of that sort of thing. I know what it's like, and I know what damage I was doing because I wasn't obedient to what I know God was saying and doing in my heart. And I see the growth in my ministry now because I'm at that place where I said, you know what, God, you said this is what's to be important. I'm going to be me, and anybody that can't get with this, they can go be somewhere else.
No, and I mean, I think that ministry and ministry leaders, and I think the first element of leadership in ministry should be where you spend time. You know, to become a new creation, what I love about the Bible itself as a sacred book is that it also talks about that we do have an old nature. And it's not and the new creation is the quality self. We keep thinking quantity first, but it is quality, and far too often hidden underneath the robes and suits and looking wonderful is a person that is in an identity crisis and not real clear about who they are. They're trying to do something as far as purpose when they weren't even clear about who they are. And that is a whole class in and of itself. These are the elements of identity. These are the elements of purpose. And these are the element of destiny. When they used to tell me, why did you leave? Why did you leave the National Security Agency as a science analyst for 10 years and go back and become a social worker and work in a social work department? I told them because it wasn't until then that I understood my identity and my purpose. They kept saying, you're making a whole lot of money in Fort Meade, so why are you taking a job that sometimes would be lower? I said, no, it's not. I am making more now than I would have ever made at the National Security Agency, because I know who I am. I know what I'm supposed to do. So what I'm supposed to have is just going to come to me anyway, no matter what kind of job you're working on.
My God, my God. You on Live with the Chop Shop. We come to you every Thursday. We talking to Dr. Kevin Daniels. We got about 5 minutes left in the broadcast. The people are calling you out, Doc. They asking when is part 2. I can guarantee you he is a friend of this platform. And y'all, I think we have really found our niche with Doc. So believe me, he will be back. And we're going to let him do what he do. I didn't talk to him about a lot of stuff. But when he comes on from now on, we're going to talk about these kinds of things. Doc, you're clearly blessing people because the dots are connecting. I think one of the things that we've had in our Christian church, spiritual walk, whatever you want to call it, experience, is places where we have one area, but we don't have the connectivity. You know, we have the Bible and we talk about the spirituality of it, but we don't do the historical perspective. We don't do the scientific. I've always been what I call a digger. I'm gonna go get what I need. I'm just one of them that if it ain't being taught, I'm gonna go find it because my curiosity is crazy, right? So when you talking about this stuff, you know we've been at this for over 20 years. The way you preach always speaks to me. But again, if I'm the lay person, because people are calling for it and asking for it, where are the access to this conversation? Where is the access to this conversation for those who may be getting, and listen, y'all, this ain't to vilify your church or your pastor. You getting spiritually fed to the best of their ability, but where are the resources to connect the dots like this other than the Chop Shop?
Sacred Spaces. I do it every Wednesday. I bring in people. I mean, I just started doing that. Of course, I always, in settings like this, I just did one for the Joint College of Bishops. And of course, I asked Dr. Showell if it was okay to turn me loose. And she said, yeah. She said, yeah. And so did Bishop Dennis. I did one for him. Again, my book is coming out. Where I literally go into, and I'm not trying to be deep or complex, but I have students across the spectrum at Morgan State University. And what I try to do is take where they are and simplify and bring them into this understanding of spirituality. Because again, we are a byproduct of God, and it's time for us to start acting like one.
But Doc, you keep saying not trying to be deep, but I think one of the reasons that we've seen this great exodus that we have been seeing is because people have a longing for more, and we're not getting it. I'm getting it. The producer's telling me we got about a minute and a half. Doc, what's your final thoughts? We're just gonna have to bring you back another time.
Yeah, I mean, but again, anything beyond our 4 dimensions, the 5th dimension is the subatomic. That's where computer technology and all that stuff is happening. That's where the field is going, and I'm concerned for my Black brothers and sisters and others that even where we are at this point, we've got to stretch the bandwidth because there is so much more. And it's already awakened that. What Amos Wilson said, awaken the genius in our Black children, but then also remove the falsification of consciousness is what he talked about. I think that we are on we're on track for that. And I challenge people. I really challenge people to stretch some bandwidth. And I used an analogy that was simple. Upgrade your equipment so you can handle what God is sending next.
Thank you, Dr. Kevin Daniels, for being with us. Thank you, Doc. I'm laughing, y'all. Not at Dr. Daniels. I'm laughing because I'm getting these notes from Shaka. Listen, we said we had to do some things to discipline ourselves for time's sake because it just worked better with the consumer when we timely. And he's shooting me all my notes. Dr. Kevin Daniels, I want to thank you for being with us this week. I want to thank all of our listening audience for being with us. But next week, we have coming for a sit down. And y'all notice, y'all have seen me shift to these one-on-one conversations because when we do the group sessions, a lot of times the voice is limited because we can't get everybody in. So I'm loving these one-on-one conversations, and we're going to have a one-on-one conversation with a brother who I believe his experience has brought him to a place of wisdom that's not yet truly appreciated by the body of Christ. The scars and things and how he's had to continue to walk through some of the things that people have said about him, done to him, and even some things of his own testimony has brought him to a place of great wisdom. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk about the Black church with Bishop Bryant K. Martin. We're going to have this one-on-one conversation. He goes live. He'll tell you quick that live ain't his platform because God has given him the ability to preach in many great places. But we're going to be able to sit down and talk to him. And I'm going to be very intentful in this conversation because I believe he has something powerful to express to people in the body of Christ. As we see the diversity of God hit the Black church in ways that we have not seen before. In March, y'all, we had the lineup almost complete. We have all but one date that is still needing to be covered, and I'm waiting on a response from somebody. But we are going to celebrate Women's History Month by spending the month with 5 powerful women of God. Some of them, one is an author, the other are pastors, and we're going to sit down and talk about everything from being single, a single mother while pastoring. Listen, y'all, the conversation is not going to be what you might assume is going to be talking to these sisters who are in leadership. We're calling the series Our Leading Ladies, and we're not trying to minimize them in their roles or their titles. The leading is the emphasis. As these women of God lead, we're going to be closed out, of course, with one of my mentors and my big sister, Dr. I keep calling her Bishop, Shelley Carter Burton, confirmed today. And listen, y'all, we're going to come in, we're going to have the conversation. Thank you again, Dr. Daniels, for being with us. I really appreciate your time. And we will be looking to book you on the other side of March. And this is what we're doing from now on. We are sitting down and we get into this because there's such a demand for the things that you bring to the platform. As always, I got to thank my right hand and my left hand, Mr. Shaka Pitts on the ones and twos, always making the magic happen. Bro, thank you for your good work. And lastly, but certainly not least, I got to thank you, our listening audience. I always say, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Of course it does. It just was nobody there to hear it. So we need our audience here. You guys come out, you show out. Be in tune tonight. Our rebroadcast at 10 p.m. and then tomorrow at 12 noon. This show will rebroadcast tonight at 10 p.m. and then again at 12 noon. And then come right back in 15 minutes because at about 7:15, we're going to be talking about getting the young people securing the bag. It's a town hall that we're going to be facilitating right here on the Chop Shop platform. Sister Danelle Pender reached out, and we're going to be literally taking a water break and coming right back to do the Securing the Bag panel with some people who are involved in youth development and economics. This conversation is going to be powerful. So when we close out of here, don't go far. Get you some water and come right back because we're going to have a powerful conversation. Thank y'all for joining us. I always say, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him. Let him direct your path. As he's directing your path, remember where you come from. I love Baltimore. I got to be the change that I want to see. I got to make sure that I'm making it happen for my community, for my family, for myself. And ultimately, remember, we can be more. Thank you for joining us.
I can be more. There's nothing that I can't achieve if I just believe. You can be more. You can make every dream a reality. We can be more. Be more, be more.
Yeah.
I can be more.
I wake up every day and try to be more. I pray I be more. It's easy to achieve anything you believe. Like hold your head high. Girl, you got a reason to breathe. I see a rare mind. Boy, you got a reason to dream. Let's take flight. Give the children a reason to see redemption. We grow up in the jacks where it's evil and wicked. Where the people with success don't want to send you a visit. But we still finna make this life worth living. Now throw your hands to the sky if you feel it. Hey, throw your hands to the sky if you the realest. You got a vision. Let's put them pistols away and make sure the OGs keep the community safe. In the world where the ladies crying, the babies dying.